Welcome, California, to the Monday, July 26th meeting of the Public Input Design Committee meeting for the California Citizens Redistricting Commission. I am Neil Fornashari, along with my colleague Isra Ahmed. We will be hosting this meeting today. So I'm going to start by calling this meeting to order and ask Director Hernandez to call the roll.
Yes, Chair. Commissioner Ahmad?
Here.
Commissioner Kutagawa?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Here.
Commissioner Fornashari?
Here.
Commissioner Sanai?
Here.
And Commissioner Turner?
Here.
Chair, the roll is complete.
Outstanding, thank you. Is Katie with us today?
Yes, Chair.
Oh, hi, Katie. We are going to start with public comment.
Alrighty. In order to maximize transparency and public participation in our process, the commissioners will be taking public comment by phone. To call in, dial the telephone number provided on the live stream feed. It is 877-853-5247. When prompted to enter the meeting ID number provided on the live stream feed, it is 847-3195-4341 for this meeting. When prompted to enter a participant ID, simply press the pound key. Once you have dialed in, you will be placed in a queue. To indicate you wish to comment, please press star 9. This will raise your hand for the moderator. When it is your turn to speak, you will hear a message that says the host would like you to talk and to press star 6 to speak. If you would like to give your name, please state and spell it for the record. You are not required to provide your name to give public comment. Please make sure to mute your computer or live stream audio to prevent any feedback or distortion during your call. Once you are waiting in the queue, be alert for when it is your turn to speak, and again, please turn down the live stream volume. And we do not have any callers in the queue at this time, Chair.
Okay, well, we will wait a little bit to let the instructions finish and see if anyone decides to call in.
If you hear a baby, it's not ours. We're babysitting. Don't get any ideas.
Chair, the instructions are complete on the stream.
Okay. We'll wait a little bit longer and see if anybody's trying to work through the phone system. Okay, well, we will be taking public comment again at the end of the meeting if anyone was unable to get in at the beginning. Let's see, we had 5 bullet items on the agenda. We weren't sure exactly what we were going to need to talk about today. So we filled out the agenda with a number of topic areas. I think some of them are overtaken by events, but we'll still touch on those just to get some clarity, I think. So if we look at bullet item 1, develop a proposal regarding whether to hold group-specific public input meetings, and that's parenthetically if needed. So at the last full commission meeting, we the commission decided that we didn't need to hold group-specific public input meetings. The current approach that we had to soliciting input, enabled groups to provide their input as well as individuals. So so we decided on that at the last meeting. Item 2, approach for summarizing COIs received from each zone in round 1 before round 2. So I think the idea behind that agenda item was to kind of talk about if there's a way we can sort of summarize what we've heard in a given zone, maybe at the beginning of the next zone meeting, just to let folks know that we're hearing their input. We've kind of summarized it. I think part of the challenge might be that we don't have the Airtable to look at all the input that we've heard, that we've gotten at this point. We can, I guess, in some ways kind of summarize what we've heard, but that wouldn't include the input through the COI tool or through emails or other ways. So, but I want to throw that open to discussion if there were, ideas and approaches to ways we might be able to do this effectively, or maybe it's something we want to hold off on. I mean, unfortunately, where some of the locations only have many of the zones only have 2 input meetings, and I think we're getting rapidly close to the second on some. So, is anybody, Linda?
Sorry, my mouse isn't cooperating. So here's maybe a couple thoughts. Fingers crossed, let's say Airtable is ready sometime in, let's say, mid to late August. I don't know for sure. I'm just kind of praying or hoping for that time frame, because we're going to need it soon anyways, before September, everything. So we do have the meetings in that second week of September that we had set aside for what we thought we were going to need to do as group meetings, but instead we've taken at least one of them for a quote unquote Southern California meeting so that we could accommodate the languages. And what we've done is we've combined like H, J, and K, I believe. What if we take the other 2 remaining dates and do something similar where we do a Northern California one and a Central California one, where we can, by that point, we should hopefully be able to have a little bit of a better idea of, of the inputs that we've had, and then give a summary, for Northern, Central, and Southern California. So then if anybody, feels then after hearing the summary that maybe their area was missing, it may inspire them or incentivize them to maybe call in and either give input or go onto the COI tool to give input in that way. But at least we provide an option for either the phone call or, submitting it electronically. And I do believe that the paper, COI tool will be ready soon also. So that may also be an option even before that, or even after that, because we'll continue to take COI input. So just one thought.
Okay. Patricia?
So, based on on kind of some of our thinking that we were doing when we created the association piece, it would be ideal if we can look at COIs as soon as we can look at them and not wait till September, and use September as a way to invite individuals and entities where we may need clarification on the communities of interest. I know we were going to, legal is looking at the different ways that we can approach people when we need clarification. But that was part of the thinking, was that we had those September meetings for that. And we, again, sooner rather than later is, for us to start looking at the pieces. Also, one of the conversations we had, and even if we we can't look at all the COIs, but we do know who spoke at meetings. One of the conversations I think we had with Freddie was, for the second round, we can do press releases that kind of say, last meeting, we, similar to the Orange County article that came out, last meeting, last time we were in Sacramento, Sacramento, blah, blah, blah. These are some of the things we heard, just to get people to say, wait, why did you hear that? Or, yeah, I agree with that. Or no, I don't. It's a whole competition and just building on that. And we are allowed to say anything that's public comment.
Thanks. Alicia?
I think it's a great idea, but I don't want to have this conversation with only using those that have called in. I want to also use the information from our COI tool as well as the written input, because I don't want it to appear that we're adding some additional weight because of those that have called in. So I really would want to wait and have this conversation until after we'll have all of the other COI information in one place.
Yeah, and I had, I just had remembered the line drawers presentation from, yes, Jane, sorry, I was waiting for you to start waving your hand. That the line drawers presentation from our last meeting, where there was a proposal in there to review at our full CRC meeting, review the COI submissions on the 10th, the 19th, and the 31st. So, Jane, is that what you all had? Yeah, go ahead. That's what you all had in mind? Is a sort of an ongoing, or a this is what we've heard to date kind of thing?
Yeah, basically, and I know it was right at the end of the meeting, and so it was kind of very short, zip. Essentially, this is what we said. Don't ask any questions. We don't have any time. But the line drawers, you've been hearing. We were trying to talk about, let's review all the COI input as soon as we could. But as Alicia just said, we can't do just what we've heard, because that seems like you have preferential treatment to everything that's already been submitted. So, and that's why we've had to wait until the COI table is done. We can't look at anything. We can't talk about it. Our understanding is that the stuff should be in, it should be ready mid-August, to end August, something. So as soon as we were able to, the line drawers, we're going to do two types of reviewing it. The first is, what do we get? Where? And the idea isn't so much in terms of us really comparing and saying, I heard this. No, it's where do we all come from? So then the public can really see where we have not heard from. Because that will include not just all the meetings we've heard, but it'll include all the COI data, all those points that are now we'll actually get to see and determine where they are. So we can really get all the input. And then at the meetings, the September meetings, and this is the just post all the input. We're actually going to be reviewing everything, but it's essentially two phases. We wanted to do, let's review what we have so far, and then let's review what we have before the census data gets here. And then we start into adding VRA in October. So that was our presentation, and we took a bunch of input about dates and things like that. And this next meeting, which is Wednesday, we'll be doing a complete update on that, considering what the input we've been getting on when we can review. input.
So, yeah, so the proposal, the 10th, the 19th, and the 31st, you're saying the line drawers would compile the input that we've had to date or who's doing the work?
Have not said that. Have not said
Okay,
the
I
line
thought
drawers.
that's what you said.
No, well, we have not gone to the details of that.
Oh, okay,
And that's
but the 10th, the 19th, and the 31st.
well, the 10th is actually the VRA whole presentation, and we're talking about the population deviations. So it's really going to be the 19th and the 31st. I don't think there'll be time on the 10th.
Okay. Yeah, is that what that note is for? Do you guys want to see what I'm looking at?
I have no idea what you're looking at. Sorry.
I'm looking at your handout.
Oh, the document from last week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was the document that the line drawing team presented last week. So as you can see, August 10th at the full CRC meeting, training on population deviation, then the VRA subcommittee will do some work. But then this, what I was referring to was this August 10th, 1931st.
Correct. And that it depends on Airtable.
Okay.
If there's some available on Airtable, and we'd kind of do it in the idea was to look at it in terms of sections of the state, so like kind of, so the population, the public could really distinguish, oh, they're talking about Southern California. They're talking about, and it wouldn't necessarily be exactly by our zones because how we've had overlap. So it would be Southern California, far North California, kind of that sort of thing. We hadn't decided exactly what, and it all depends on when Airtable is available. But yeah, that does. Dates will shift a bit. And the August dates are what we're talking about in terms of what do we get? What does it look like? What areas are missing? So the public could then, and then we could do, as Linda said, use those couple of last September ones for additional input from Southern and Northern to go. Now they saw, oh, wow, there's nothing in this section or that section. And then the later in September are the ones where that's after our public input dates. Those 15, well, slightly different now, but 15, those for looking at all the data, and that's just at a business meeting.
Okay, so I have Isra, then Patricia.
Thank you. I just a quick clarifying question from Jane. Hopefully you can help me understand. For the August 19th and 31st dates, that review of community of interest submissions, who is bringing that conversation forward? Is that the line drawing subcommittee or the public input design subcommittee?
Line drawing subcommittee thought they'd be doing this.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I have Patricia, then Trina.
So I want us to be careful because we said, oh, then we can get more input, because we haven't seen things in September, but we really are supposed to be looking at all the COIs now, and we have staff to be doing outreach. And so I'm really concerned as we keep pushing out when the Airtable is going to be ready, and I'm going to call it a database versus selling a technology product, giving them free airtime. When our database is ready to go, is there really no way for the statewide database to tell us how many we've gotten from each county or any type of information? I'm really nervous about we had all this time and we're going to lose that time to do that extra outreach. And this is, to me, it's like that, to me, that is something I'm really anxious about, is that, we were supposed to be, we hired this big team to go do outreach to make not just outreach to do the, come to the meetings, but we've always said the meetings is just a small percentage of the communities of interest that we need to get. It is really the tool and going out there and promoting the tool. And if we're not going to get anything till the 19th, we're really going, like, that's a month from now. And that's a month before the date we have the full data. And that's not giving us. So there's nothing that the statewide database can do right now. There's no information we can get currently.
Jane, you're going to answer that question? Or do you?
I have some info. I know that, the statewide database just gives it, they send the information to us. And then that's it. But we don't have any way to sort it. We don't have anything like that. So, and I mean, I don't know. Sure, we'd probably ask, hey, how many per county, things like that. But that's not what they were ever supposed to be doing. It was all supposed to be coming to us, and then this is just, it's unfortunate that we're in this situation now. I know if someone else has anything to add, or that we could, I don't know.
So I have Trina, Isra, or Alicia, then Isra.
Yeah, and mine will be really quick. Thank you, Chair. The 19th date, I'm looking at that on the calendar and wondering, was that a new date added in? I don't see that as a date that we had. So I want to make sure I'm looking at the right date.
You missed the whole meeting that we talked about all the line drawing. So that comes from the line drawing committee.
So
you're proposing to add another meeting. Oh, there's a CRC meeting on the 19th.
19th of August is a CRC meeting, 4 to 8.
Yeah. Okay, I must have deleted it. I don't see it a meeting at all on August 19th.
There were changes. So yeah, that a back and forth, as I think there were a couple of zones that got shifted through there, but that one has been on for a bit. So not September though. That's not.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the CRC meetings as the 10th full day, the 19th 4 to 8, and the 21st, the 31st full day.
4 to 8. Thanks.
Trina, I'm looking at the invitation, and you had answered no. So I don't know if you couldn't go, and that's why it's not on your calendar.
Well, that would certainly explain why it's not.
Would you like me to send it to you again, just in?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, I think I had Alicia, Isra, and then I think Marcy raised her hand too. No.
In terms of the statewide database, when we first did the Zone D was the first public input meeting by zone. I had asked Corin if she could split out the information by county or by zone, and she said they could not. All she could do is give me the total amount that has been submitted. So I'm just going to repeat what she said. Maybe it's changed since then, but I did ask for that information early on because I did feel that that would be helpful to be able to report that out instead of just being able to report out total submittals statewide.
Isra?
Just briefly, my understanding is the same as Jane's, that it's not the responsibility of the statewide database to organize the data. It's our responsibility as commissioners to have that data organized. So as you've heard many times over in our full meetings, our database management system is very close to coming together, and there are certain procurement processes that are out of our control that we could not maneuver in the time frame that, quite frankly, I would have liked, and all of you would have liked, and I'm sure many Californians would have liked, but maybe this will spark some change in the procurement processes statewide. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully. Did you have something, Marcy, or no?
No, I was just responding about the calendar. So.
Okay. I'm going to put Alvaro on the spot. How are things moving along with our database, Alvaro?
Nothing new to report on the database. We are working out some of the details of getting the information from the statewide database into Airtable. And so once that has been completed, we'll be able to transfer that information into Airtable. There's going to be a lot of things that need to be done once the information is there. We're also looking at how we're going to import the information that's been collected from the various input meetings into the Airtable, as well as any other input that we've received elsewhere or through other means. How do we import that information into the Airtable? So trying to look at a plan once our data manager is on board. We've already started some of the preliminary conversations, but really putting together more of a detailed plan on when things will happen. My projected time frame is still mid-August, and I'm just saying that to make sure that we're able to do all of these things, because I do hear that you want to look at all the data, not pieces of the data. And so I'd rather give you all the data versus just piecemealing it together, because that could just lead to more confusion, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, we're definitely way behind on that. But it sounds like there's not much we can do about it at this point, unfortunately. Linda?
Yeah, if I could just make a comment on that, as much as we're anxious to do so, I think just to avoid any additional, kind of concern or perhaps other kinds of worry around the data, I think I just want to support what Rose just said, is that, I think we all want to see it, but better that the data be put in correctly. And so it's done in a way that people can have trust in what we have. It's one thing if there's people don't like the way, data shows up and says, well, why can't we do X? So that's a function of, it's a technical function versus the data being done wrong or captured wrong or something else. I think we want to make sure that all who have submitted their COI input, whether it's through the COI tool, the paper, email, phone calls, testimonies, we want to make sure that everybody can trust what we have in there. So I think I just wanted to support what Alvaro is saying about, it may take a little bit more time than we want, but better that than something that's rushed and wrong. And then that then puts us into a whole another place of, problems. So.
Thank you. Jane?
I did want to say, it's just that I want to make sure all the different types of data are in it. It isn't like, oh, we have all the data now. I don't want anyone in the public to be confused about that. It will always be as of a certain date, but it's all of that as of a certain date. And that's where Alvaro is being very careful and cautious, make sure it's not just at a public input meeting or just through the COI tool or just, that stuff. And that's where I just want to make sure the public knows there will be more data coming in continuously. But, when we say, hey, here's the data, it'll be all of it as of a certain date.
Okay, so it looks like at this point, based on our technological and contracting challenges that we've been having to deal with, mid-August is probably the soonest we'll get to look and review the data. It also looks like the line drawing team is going to take on the responsibility for organizing those dates when we look at the COI data when we review the COI data. Is that what we said, Jane? I thought that's what we just said a minute ago. You had a look on your face like you were surprised by what I said. But,
No, I'm sorry.
okay.
I just want to make sure that it won't be just alone, like it will be with what the staff wants to do. And, it won't be just, if there are other factors that need to make this happen, that's the line drawer is just going to be the lead to say, okay, now, and so will be presenting it. I'm not going to, since we have not thoroughly discussed it yet, how it's going to roll. But yeah, I think the line drawers are going to be trying to herd this together and present it.
Yeah. So my point was, as opposed to this committee herding it together.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
I think that was exactly it.
And then the if we look at bullet number 3 is on our agenda for today, discuss ideas for reviewing all COI data in late September before we begin line drawing. And that's another topic that the line drawing team is going to herd.
Yeah, that one definitely, absolutely. And we just might need more input on the first part, the August stuff possibly. But the line drawers, we're going to plan on herding all that.
Okay. And then bullet 3 or 4, I guess, at this point, was discuss phase 3. What types of meetings are we going to hold, and what are they going to look like? What are the line drawing meetings? What are the public input on draft map meetings going to look like? So the line drawing team has put together, as part of their proposal, a number of meetings for sketching prior to releasing of draft maps. So it looks like the first sub-bullet or sub-bullet 1 is already out there, and the line drawing team is going to herd those discussions. I guess one of the things we need to figure out is what is our public input, public feedback on our draft maps. What are those meetings going to look like? So that was sub-bullet 2 under there. So I don't know, did the line drawing team think about that, or okay, go ahead, Jane.
We are actually sort of addressing that. How, given one phase, we're sort of starting to look at, obviously what happened last time. And given though, doesn't mean we're doing that, but what are possibilities? So we can kind of have an idea in terms of bringing that back to the full commission, and to say this committee to flesh out more of that. We have not, we're talking about the first part of it. And then depending on how that goes, then we can actually come up with, say, you're proposing even like dates for the input afterwards, because, there's a 14-day wind froze, everything freezes. And before we can actually then start, we can't touch the map. So how does that interlap play? And that's where we're going to be discussing at our next meeting. So we could bring that back.
At our next full commission meeting?
Our next line committee meeting.
Oh, okay.
We're getting into that, more of the details of some ideas. So, and then we come back to the full commission and also this group to say, hey, this group should really tackle, what do you think? What do you think about, whatever it is? I just don't have quite that information yet.
Okay. So, but can I have a question, but then you probably you have the answer for it. But I mean, do you envision that we would be hosting input meetings in that 14 days to get public feedback on the maps then?
Oh yeah, well, we'll definitely have then a next set of public input meetings. Absolutely. Because basically once we put out that first draft, then we have to hear from the public.
But that would be during that 14-day. I mean, it's not like we just go on vacation for 2 weeks, right? Unfortunately.
Sure we do.
Sorry.
Have fun. See? Now, and I might ask Anthony on this one, but in terms of the, we cannot do anything about the maps at that time. But can we listen to public input? Absolutely.
Right. And I think that's what the statute is contemplating when they sort of hold that window open. It's certainly, the statute refers to taking that comment. But I think we need to be thoughtful about that. I think that's probably more than just receipt of any sort of, written comments that come in. I think it would be, commission would do well to, have an opportunity in that 14 days, during that 14-day period to take that public input as well.
Yeah, I think that's always been this line drawing subcommittee's understanding is then we'll have a whole nother set of input meetings. And I'm pretty sure the full commission has had that same idea. I mean, I certainly have, just as commissioner, that of course we're doing next public input meeting, next phase.
Yeah, I thought we got a piece of public input the other day, or there was an article or something that thought we were taking a 2-week vacation.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I've heard several of those. We're taking vacation. Oh no, it was. Oh yeah, no, it was.
Was it an article?
No. Oh no, it was at the holidays. That's they thought we were going to take holiday vacations.
Okay, I had Patricia, then Alicia.
It's interesting because I've heard it go both ways. I've heard the public say, what, do they want to go on vacation? Is that why they're pushing for this? And then I've heard it the other way where once you post the maps, it would be great if they went on vacation so we can all just look at the maps and submit our comments in writing or whatever. So I've seen it both ways in different forums and articles and stuff. Because I always thought that those 14 days, I didn't realize we met to get public input. I thought it was just, we posted them and people got to look at them and for 14 days, I knew we didn't touch them, but that people submitted public input in whichever way they wanted.
Well, I think I guess we need to think about exactly what the design we're gonna have for that input time and how we're gonna manage getting that input. Alicia?
If I understood Jane correctly, the line drawing is going to come up with proposals on public input, but why not? And instead of bringing it back to this committee, why not just bring it to the full commission? And I'm just thinking that then the public input design committee would sunset, if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense for Jane and Sarah to come up with proposals, bring it to this subcommittee, and then bring it to the full commission. Why not just take it to the full commission? Because we've all gone through the process of the public input. So I think all 14 of us would have some great ideas to throw around. So I'm not that I'm looking to sunset, but I'm looking to sunset. So I don't know. I was just getting kind of confused in terms of the role going forward, our role going forward.
Well, and that's where I was headed. Just trying to get some clarity on where this committee is going, where the work is going to be done, and whether this committee continues to have a role or not. What? Up where? Oh, Alvaro.
I'll just lift the hat. Maybe that'll attract attention. So I am curious at the design of those line drawer meetings, because I do understand that we are going to have public input from the time that we post any draft maps. And if we're going to have public input meetings, what would those look like? And I don't recall how the previous commission did that, if they had public input meetings in between that time frame, and if they were actually similar to what our COI meetings were. So I was going to ask if Marion could share her historical perspective on that.
Remember that they really didn't have a separate set of public input meetings apart from other meetings. They incorporated public input into their regular business meetings, but they certainly heard a lot once the first set of draft maps came out, and they had hoped to do a second set of draft maps, but ran out of time. And one of the things this commission needs to decide at some point is whether or not it's going to do a second set of draft maps and again seek public comment before you finalize your maps.
So that would require another 7 days, right?
That requires 7 days notice. And you're right, the 7 days is, you can't redraw the maps during that time, but you certainly can take input on them.
I guess it all depends on what our schedule ends up looking like. Alvaro?
And so that's where I was kind of getting to. What is that going to look like? And I think that's going to be a challenge for us to try to design those public input meetings after the maps, or to take input on those maps. Is it going to be similar to what we currently have? So I think the line drawers will have to kind of look at that from a planning perspective and how you want the staff to help in support of that effort. Because if we are going to have these different meetings at different locations, be it in public or virtual, however that ends up working out in the future, we need to start doing some of the planning. So I kind of wanted to make sure I uplifted that conversation today to make sure that we start thinking about, what's that going to look like. And I think that is a very, at least in my mind, it looks a little bit different from what we currently have, where we're just listening in on, just communities of interest. This is going to be very specific type of feedback on a region, on a map of sorts. So thank you.
Mary?
And if the past is any lesson, you'll be getting feedback in a number of forms. Some groups are going to submit statewide maps. Others are just going to do for their region. So you may want to strategize about whether you want to limit comments during a meeting to a particular area or to include the entire state and try to get it more organized. Sort of the way you've done it now with the input meetings. You don't necessarily stick to it, but you at least prioritize what you're going to focus on in any one of those meetings.
Trina, then Jane, then Marcy.
Yeah, just a quick question for Marion. Marion, thank you for that. And you said towards the end, because I was thinking to be organized and to have those meetings flow in with clarity, that we would want to limit it to a specific area. But then at the end, you said you added something that made me wonder if it was another one of the legal issues. If we're concentrating on a specific area, can we only take public input or feedback on that particular section, or is it one of the ones again that we still have to open it up and hear from other areas?
You still have to open it up to general public comment, but during your the first portion of the meeting, you can certainly concentrate on a particular area. Beautiful. And comments on those. The problem is you don't really know what people are going to talk about until they start talking, and you don't want to shut off people who might have something valuable to contribute, but you want to try and as much as you can, encourage people to talk about that particular area.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm out of practice here. I think it was Jane and then Marcy. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep, I'll let Marcy go first.
Thank you. This is really helpful. I think just to add to, as we have a better sense of these different, pieces of the phases, for staff to have, as much lead time as possible to also, identify how we push outreach and what the targeted ask is. And so now it's very clear we're focusing on communities of interest input, but as we transition, how we balance that and around the timeframes of when we will be, directing the public to participate in different ways. And just also going back to the earlier conversation around the review of COI input, if the line drawer subcommittee is going to need additional staff support and the analysis of COI input, just reach out to me also so that we can help with if you're planning on doing that regionally, and how the field leads can support as well.
Okay. Well, I think that's a lot of good input, and it sounds like the line drawing team's going to give that some thought. And go ahead, Jane.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. The line drawers, we do know the different phases, and we're trying to get basically kind of do a first cut at all of that based on what did happen, what was good and bad about what happened last time. So rather than going over everything, kind of go, okay, and try to pare it down with, this is probably how we should do it, because there are the different considerations of, different areas. And, first there's how do we draw the lines? Then there's the input. And as Marion correctly said, this time we'll also be getting a great deal of full maps, because anyone can, the tools are available to everybody. So we'll be getting like maps from people, individuals, groups, all sorts of things. So that's where we're trying to have a look at how do we even consider that. And that's where the line drawing team want to take a first crack at it to help essentially make the commission's time be more efficient.
Okay. Well, I kind of resonate with Alicia's suggestion that the line drawing committee doesn't need to bring it back through this committee. We can just bring it directly to the full commission, and kind of seems like this committee's ready to sunset. We have a meeting scheduled for August 16th. So for this committee, go ahead, Jane.
I would recommend that we keep that just until then, because depending on how Airtable comes out, and at that point we'll know a bit more. Quite frankly, it's only a couple of weeks from now, and there might be a need to say, hey, like, okay, these are a couple different things. Why don't we pare that down? Like, we might need more direction instead of getting the full commission involved in everything. We might say, well, like the way this group did bring the meetings, the time frame, all that sort of stuff together really, really helped. And so that, I think, why don't we just keep it? My recommendation would be to keep it, and then depending on that 16th, that could be the final meeting of it.
Yeah, and that was going to be my proposal too. Is we'll keep it. We next. Wait, what day is it? It's the 16th. So August 2nd is the day we need to have the agenda put up. So, if there are things that we need to talk about that day, let's make sure we get them on the agenda. But I think we'll just keep it flexible, and, as it gets closer, decide if we actually need to have the meeting or not. And Marion.
Depending on what happens with the Supreme Court case, right now during the month of August, you only need to have 3 days notice for meetings.
Oh. Okay.
That was the expectation you'd be actually finalizing your maps in, but you can make use of that since it's there.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay. Well, actually, though, we're asking the Supreme Court to change that for us. So if we don't put an agenda up on the 2nd and they change it on the 10th, then we're out of luck. And Patricia has her hand up.
I'm not feeling comfortable doing the 3-day, even though it's in the Constitution that way, because we keep arguing intent versus, the whatever. And if our argument is going to be about the intent of a law, or our intent when we were doing outreach and all that, I think we need to be consistent, and we know what the intent of the 3 days in August was. And that's just my feeling.
Well, and Commissioner Snide, this is Anthony. We've already, the commission has already requested Strumwasser to file suit sort of with a particular interpretation of how map finalization and dates that run up to that are interpreted, we would be essentially doing a 180 for convenience. And so I'm not sure that works to our favor either.
Yeah, I agree. And is it 14 days for this meeting, or is it 10?
So for public, if we're talking public input meetings, or are we talking business meetings?
This committee meeting.
This committee meeting, you're free to do a 10-day if you need to.
Okay.
Bagley Keem
All right.
requires 10.
Okay. Well, we'll go with 10, or gosh, we've been doing 14 the whole time. We'll go with 14. We'll make a decision.
Our
then.
practice has been to do all of them.
Let's
14.
just continue with 14. And so the second. So we'll need to have the agenda up by the second. So if there are things that need to be, that any of the committee members or staff feel like they need to have on the agenda, have it to Isra and I by the first. Let's see, I was negligent in my responsibility as chair for my input meeting for Zone E. And at the end, I forgot to thank everyone who put in all the hard work to make that meeting happen. So Alvaro, Marcy, our ASL folks, the video folks, Katie, Christian, thank you all for your hard work. And I'm sorry, I was so focused on being the chair that it blew out of my brain, and I apologize. But I wanted you all to know that I really appreciate all your hard work and how well, and our line drawing team, and how well that went. So thank you all. Is there anything else that we need to work on today? That we've gone through the agenda, we've discussed meeting dates, and agenda items will be in by the first. Okay, well then, Katie, public comment, please.
The commission, the Public Input Design Committee is now taking public comment. To give comment, please call 877-853-5247 and enter the meeting ID number 847-3195-4341 for this meeting. And once you have dialed in, please press star 9 to enter the comment queue. The full call-in instructions have been read at the beginning of this meeting and are provided in full on the live stream landing page. And we do not have anyone in the queue at this time, Chair.
Okay, well, let me know when the instructions are done, and we'll wait a little longer.
Absolutely. Chair, would you like us to set a 2-minute timer?
Sure, thank you.
Perfect.
The instructions are complete on the chair or on the stream, and we've got about 30 seconds left on that 2-minute timer.
Who's baby?
Our old neighbors that live up in LA now. They're down visiting.
That's her public input, I guess.
Your timer is complete, Chair.
Okay, well, I guess we have no public comment. I appreciate everyone joining us and your input, and I will call this meeting adjourned.